Hey guys, so Paizo has a new playtest out called Risks and Rewards, and it contains two new classes to playtest, one being the Daredevil and one being the Slayer. Now, both of these classes, when they were revealed, did cause a bit of a stir in the community because people felt that thematically they might be treading on the toes of some existing classes. Since they've actually been released and we've got our hands on them, that perception has lowered a little bit. They are quite unique in their gameplay style. However, I thought it might be fun to look through both of these classes and see if we can come up with some fun reflavors that maybe it would be difficult to do through the existing classes, just to show that they are unique to themselves and they do come up with new fantasies for us to enjoy as players. So if we start with the Daredevil, the default, the intention here, I suppose, is definitely for it to be a corridor fighter. Your Marvel Daredevils, your Bruce Lees. It's intended that you're staying near surfaces like a wall, and you're kicking off, you're beating people as you're rushing past them, you're fighting through them to get to the side, you're improvising with what you're using. However, doesn't that sound kind of similar to a drunken monk, which is a fantasy we don't really have yet in Pathfinder? Outside of these stumbling stance monk feat, that is a single feat, and how much heavy lifting can it really do? You could absolutely reskin this style of fighting as a totally wasted individual, stumbling around, bouncing off walls, tripping through enemies, and turn it from this skilled, intentional fighting into a drunken, stumbling, accidental success. Another one it strikes me as being very successful as is the stereotype of a gentleman brawler, a fisticuffs individual. While the class is very high octane and fast, it still gives me the vibe of someone who's very deliberate, someone who's very thoughtful with their environment around them, kind of in the way that a gentleman explorer would be. Thirdly, it screams circus performer / jester to me. The way they're bouncing off the environment, doing ridiculous things, almost mocking people with their movements. I think this class could absolutely be reskinned into a super successful jester or like mocking character. Similar to the drunken monk, but a little less purposely thematic, is just an accidental or lucky fighter. Somebody who's not particularly well trained, but almost has this divine look sitting on their shoulder, making sure that everything they do just happens to go their way. This becomes especially true if you take things like the wall sweep reaction. And while we already have it as an archetype, this screams a professional wrestler to me. It's very hands-on. You're grabbing your enemies, you're tripping your enemies, you're using your enemies' bodies against themselves. It's very up close and personal, and I haven't looked into it, but I'm sure it does synergize pretty well with the wrestler archetype. And then there's a few feats in here that could potentially deem an entire reskin just off themselves. Breakaway Attack could absolutely be reskinned as a martial transmutation character. If you think Full Metal Alchemist, when they're grabbing frying pans, bits of wood, a chair from anywhere around them to attack with, they could be, flavor-wise, reshaping that into an actual weapon and slamming with it, because the damage does justify it as being a real weapon. If you think Full Metal Alchemist, somebody runs past a spoon, grabs it, suddenly it's a knife in their hand, and they can shank somebody. The forceful kickoff stunt screams a small character bouncing around. Think Yoda, think a small ape-like character. This one to me works particularly well if you're a small-sized character. Pressing Pummel is a great feat regardless of the theme, but to me it screams mob enforcer. This very violent but not particularly flamboyant character that just wants to beat the shit out of you. Due to the inclusion of something like Stunt Driver, you could absolutely make a Mad Max style character with this. Somebody who's going to be using a vehicle a lot, somebody who is kind of unhinged. And then lastly, with the Bouncing Hurl feat, you could absolutely make a Gambit style character. You could absolutely be picking up cards, cutlery, small objects, and hurling them at enemies, bouncing them around the area in a very Gambit or Bullseye style theme. So then we have the Slayer. This one is clearly designed to be a monster hunter or a witcher, very much involved in using its tools to overcome an enemy. This one, I will admit, was a little harder for me to come up with good reskins for, but I think I have a few cool options. The major breakthrough I had was realizing that you can make a person your quarry. So we could absolutely make an Inquest style character. If you make a witch or a wizard or anyone really your hunted quarry, you could absolutely have this holier than thou crusader style character who's going to go in there and hunt down people. You could also make this a pretty violent alternative to an investigator. If you think DC's Batman or Watchmen's Rorschach, somebody who's hunting criminals down and not necessarily following the law once you do find them. You could also reskin this to be a savvy, scrappy inventor coming up with on-the-fly gadgets to deal with their enemies. It could be a witch hunter of old or an exorcist priest using their array of charms and consecrated weapons to fight back devils and demons. You can also absolutely run this as a rich, inexperienced, noble kid who doesn't really know what he's doing, but he has enough money to buy tools that will get the job done. Maybe he has a really powerful set of armor, making up for his lack of training, or a powerful weapon, or a bunch of potions that his family have paid for. And the last 3 theme I have for the Slayer is a bit of a weird one, just bear with me, but it kinda screams shonen protagonist to me, especially an isekai one, where you're this character that has this special, powerful item, whether that's your Bloodseeker weapon or your armor or whatever, and you're always in that uphill battle. It's a common trope in anime that the main character gets their ass kicked, goes again, wins. And that's kind of the theme here. You always have to be hunting a quarry that is stronger than you. So yeah, those are some potential re-themes for the Slayer and the Daredevil. I think these classes look great. I'm really looking forward to them. I wish I didn't have to own a GM so that I could play one. But since I've been playing, we've had the Exemplar, Animist, Necromancer, and Runesmith as the playtest material. These are the ones I've enjoyed the most, besides the Necromancer. So, great job, Paizo. I'm really looking forward to seeing what you do with these on the full release. But for now, take these ideas, run with them, make some great, interesting characters. I shall see you soon. Bye-bye.